guys, Legend Vipers here, and welcome to the Thoughts After Playing Resident Evil 8 video. Now, I'm going to say before I even say anything else, spoilers are going to be in this video. If you have not played Resident Evil 8 yet, go play it because this is going to be spoiling the entire story arc for you. And honestly, the first thing I can say about Resident Evil 8 is just, holy shit, okay? Holy shit. Literally, this game, honestly, was probably one of my favorites of the Resident Evil franchise. It took a whole different aspect of what I thought was going to happen. It was completely different than what we all thought it was going to be. And it had a very kind of tragic but happy ending, if you would. So, obviously, my accusations of kind of saying my thoughts prior to the game's release, I was completely wrong. I probably got 5% of it correct. The rest was just complete, nothing. What really I think threw me for a loop was that I only thought Mother Miranda and Lady Dimitrescu was going to be the only two, main antagonist of Ethan, and that was it. I had no idea that there was going to be more lords we were going to have to kill. But there is a lot to discuss, and I'm kind of going to break it down just a little bit for us here. So, obviously, covering off a couple of things that I said in the video prior, I made a couple comments. So first off, we'll start from the very beginning. I said Mia was going to die, which I was right and wrong with Mia about Mia dying. So Mia, if you played the game, once again, spoilers, if you have not played it, go play it first because this is going to spoil the whole thing for you. But Mia is actually, we thought Chris killed Mia. Flat out in the beginning of the game, we thought that was how that happened. Mia was just killed off. Because the way I thought it was kind of like, I thought Mia had a little bit of revenance of the mold inside of her. Therefore, when they had the child had mold with her. And that's kind of why Mia was killed. And that's why Chris was going to take the child away from Ethan. But it was actually because the roles were reversed. But Chris didn't even know that Ethan was mold either. That's the thing. Once again, massive spoilers. I'm obviously going off on the tangents of just breaking everything down. So we've already played the game to completion, so we know what's happened and what's happening. So essentially, if you don't know yet, and you want to find out pretty quickly, Ethan Winters has been mold since Resident Evil 7. In the beginning intro to Resident Evil 7, when he kills Mia for the first time in Resident Evil 7, when Jack steps on him, basically squashes his head, that's when he dies. He actually is dead. The only reason why he came back and why he's still alive is because the mold kind of transformed his body into kind of like what Mia was or what Jack was, where his body was just full mold, but somehow he could control it. He was a different, I say it was like a special type of mold where he could keep his physical appearance and his sanity intact and not be controlled. It's just kind of confusing that, it's like, drop the big ball on that one for Ethan Winters, because honestly, Ethan Winters, next to Leon Kennedy, Ethan Winters is one of my all-time favorite Resident Evil players to play as. That's why I was kind of sad when he died, and I was kind of the ending to it was kind of upsetting for me, because Ethan, even though he's only been in 2 games now, Ethan was still one of my favorite characters from Resident Evil. He was one of the first faceless protagonists we've had for a Resident Evil game. I mean, when Capcom said that there was going to be a first-person style game for Resident Evil 7, everyone was like, this is going to be weird because so far Resident Evil games have always been in third-person perspective, but we've always seen the face of our protagonist character. This was the first time they took a character and not showed his face to us. Even in 8, they didn't even show his face, which they should have. But that could mean something. There might be some symbolic kind of hidden secret behind that. Maybe Ethan is going to come back in maybe memories, maybe thoughts, or even maybe he'll come back to see Rose in the mold spawn type thing. We'll see him again. Not as a playable character, but he still will make an appearance at some point in the series in the future. Who knows? We don't know yet, because it's still very early on with Resident Evil 8 just getting released. So, we don't know nothing yet. But anyways, following the base of the story, Ethan goes originally the transport was supposed to take them, like Rose and Ethan, to a safe location. However, we find out that Mia was actually Mother Miranda, which is the main villain of this game, who can disguise herself as anyone she wants. And Mother Miranda just so happened to take the form of Mia and the chance to possibly take Rose away from Ethan without him knowing. But things go awry when Chris shows up and tries to kill her. It fails. So when he was driving in the shuttle buses or whatever to go bring them to a safe location, Miranda destroys the transport and steals Rose and heads off into the village with her. Ethan then wakes up in the snow and he goes right into the village following them, follows suits. And of course, obviously he gets captured and we find out there's these lords of the village. You have Dimitrescu, you have Monrose, you have the Doll Maker, and you have Heisenberg. All four of these lords have been divided up against Mother Miranda, owning different sections of the map. The first person we encounter is obviously Lady Dimitrescu, and she owns Castle Dimitrescu, as well as she has 3 daughters that we end up having to kill, as well as her. We see her at the climax of the first boss fight, fully transformed to her fully mold-like ability thanks to the Megamind seed. Her little Megamind, I don't know if it's Megamind seed or if it was something else. See, I looked up a lot of lore on it. And I understand that I missed a lot. There was a lot I missed, and I'm kind of pissed. But my plan is in the future to go back and revisit the game as kind of like a completionist playthrough, because there's a lot I missed. There's a lot I didn't get to, and it kind of upsets me a little bit. But that being said, I'm going to do a couple other videos of something else first. I'm going to space out the Resident Evil, because we've been doing straight Resident Evil for the past week. I'm getting kind of sick of it. That's why there hasn't been much videos up ever since the series ended. I'm kind of taking a little bit of a break. I'm coming back to make this video because I went and looked up a bunch of stuff, and I just kind of had to process the game because it kind of threw me for a loop. I'm just like, it blew my fucking mind what Capcom did with it. But anyways, we killed Dimitrescu. The Duke tells us, which is another interesting character I'd like to see Capcom do more with, the Duke, the merchant, if you would. But Duke tells us there's 4 lords of the village who have a flask of Rose that we need to get back in order to bring Rose back to life type thing. Once we have all 4 flasks, Rose can be reincarnated, I guess you could say. So we kill the Doll Maker first in the series, what I did anyway. You kill the Doll Maker, whose ability is with those flowers. I was reading, I didn't even read the fucking notes that I was picking up, because there was a lot I missed. Apparently the Doll Maker, I forgot her name right now, but I just call her the Doll Maker. Apparently she was infecting Ethan's mind with these enzymes that were kind of giving him hallucinogenic projections of Mia and the baby, which is what that fucking weird creature was, that I didn't even have the balls to face head on. I literally played it like a pussy. I was like, you know what? Joking aside, that was probably one of the fucking most terrifying Resident Evil characters ever. That fucking baby was like, oh, I hated that. That gave me fucking anxiety, because it was like, oh, fuck. It was so bad. But the baby, it was all hallucinogenics. It wasn't actually real. It was being projected through Ethan's mind thanks to the plants she could take these enzymes from and give hallucinogenic projections of. That's why when we killed her in the game, we thought we were killing the doll, but it was actually the woman who was controlling the dolls. That's why at the end of it all turned to dust. It was her, because she was the one we were killing, not the doll. However, I kind of fucked up. I didn't grab the doll. I didn't know that you could grab the doll. I thought, I'll just leave the doll in the house. In my mindset, I didn't even know you could pick it up. I thought it was just there. I didn't know you could take the doll. That's why I was like, I didn't get a crystallized version of that. And that's another thing I wanted to mention. These crystallized versions of the bosses we get. We get crystallized Dimitrescu, crystallized Heisenberg, crystallized Monrose, but we didn't get one for the Doll Maker, because I think we would have picked up the porcelain doll. Was it Anna, something like that? I can't quite remember. But anyways, these crystallized versions, if you haven't played End of Zoe DLC, this won't mean nothing to you if you haven't played End of Zoe. If you haven't played Resident Evil 7 altogether. But these crystallized versions are just like the exact same thing was happening to Zoe at the end of Zoe DLC. She had like these crystals growing on her body as if her body was slowly turning to crystal, like kind of like what happened with Demetresk and all them. They were turning into crystallized versions of themselves, obviously when they died. Obviously, somehow, I don't know how it would have worked with Zoe, but she was infected, and when Evelyn died, it's almost like she was becoming crystal automatically. I don't know how that would have worked. That's where I'm kind of hitting a roadblock, because it's the exact same crystal as we see in 7, because it's the same. We find out that this mold is all connected to this one Megamind seed because Evelyn originated from the village, which then took Evelyn because Mother Miranda was working with Evelyn as kind of like the researchers and the doctors and such. She was there, so she saw Evelyn depart with Mia from over in Europe over to the U.S., and that's how they landed in Louisiana, and that's how the Baker story starts. So this village is an origin in multiple ways. This village is not just an origin for Evelyn. This village is also the origin of Umbrella. I found this out, that was it Isaac? Something like that. I can't remember. I feel horrible because I should know my Resident Evil by now, but I'm still very forgetful with it. But anyways, my friend was telling me about this actually. He says Umbrella essentially got the idea. That's why the symbol looks familiar. Remember how I said it was like Umbrella was like around the sacrilegious umbrella coat? It was not that at all. In fact, it was the complete opposite. The founder of Umbrella actually went to the village to visit Mother Miranda and took the inspiration of the Umbrella logo from the village. That's how Umbrella got founded. That's how it started. I didn't know that at first until after everything. Anyway, the white balance is horrible right now. I apologize. I have my window open. The sun's beautiful outside. That's why the white balance is kind of like not showing me well. So I apologize if it keeps like auto adjusting. It's not my fault. It's the sun going in and out of the clouds, and I can't exactly do that. Can't fix that. So I apologize. But anyways, we find out that Umbrella gets formed through this village, and that Evelyn is also came from this village at one point too, because it's off of Miranda's Megamind seed that she was able to kind of leave. Now, I thought originally like Evelyn was Mother Miranda's daughter, which I guess you could kind of say that because Miranda kind of hinted this like Rose is Evelyn's final form. So I guess it's kind of correct and not correct, I guess you could say, because honestly, you might as well say that Evelyn was Mother Miranda's daughter. You might as well say that. Because it just kind of adds up that way, because she speaks about Evelyn, like Mother Miranda speaks about Evelyn like if it was her daughter. So that kind of debunks that a little bit. Now, here's what kills me. The whole mold story with Ethan Winters. And I kind of am curious, and I wish Capcom would answer this. I hope they do. They won't answer my question. I doubt if they do, I'll be shocked. But my honest question is, was the original intention to kill Ethan Winters like this? Like, in the original game concept for 8, was there already talk of killing off Ethan Winters? Because I feel like they just shoehorned in the idea of like, oh, Ethan died when Jack stomped his head in the very first moment he was at the Baker farm. Because, oh, yeah, he came conscious again. That was because of the mold in his body. But I want to know if that was the original intention or if that came later on, that they wanted to kind of build more of a story arc with 8 and further games to kind of give Rose's character more of a, give more of like a reasoning to do what she does because of her father. She wants to impress her father and do good type thing, even though he's gone. Because honestly, it was a very touching end game, in other words. I thought it was kind of sad because I said the same thing. But what really is questioning me is that the whole first aid med. This is kind of like my theory behind the first aid med. You ready for this? I doubt anyone is. But the first aid med actually isn't a healing item. Well, I mean, it is a healing item, but it's not what you think it is. This particular first aid med is actually like an accelerator for the mold. So since Ethan can get slashed across the chest, he can lose limbs and arteries, and he can still put them back on like nothing. Like he literally gets his hand decapitated clean off, bone and all, and he just dumps this, like he dumps the stupid first aid mitt on it, puts his hand back on, and automatically he can move it like it's nothing. My theory is that the first aid mitt is actually not like a medicine, but an accelerator. So for the mold, so like if he puts it on, if he puts his hand back on, he just leaves it there. Over time, it would probably reconnect his, like slowly start to reconnect his whole like bone and everything like that over time. But the first aid med is kind of like an accelerator for the mold that when he puts it on, it accelerates the healing process quicker so his hand can instantly just be back to normal. But it's kind of weird because considering that anyway with his hand and his foot, even the same thing in 7, he dumps like, if you get your leg cut off by Jack, he just sticks it back on with a first aid med and it's fine. But for some reason, in 7, he has to get his other hand stapled back on because for some reason it won't stay on. So that's where I'm kind of confused a bit. Like, was it intentional to kill Ethan? Was this already a thing? Because I know a lot of people have already pointed out, like, it makes sense why Ethan could take so much damage and still walk away like he just got a scrape on his shoulder, like nothing. So that kind of gives the theory to Ethan Winters and stuff like that. But I still wish they would have did more with Ethan. But I think what it would have made me break down a lot and actually start bawling my eyes out on camera when I played this was if Ethan got to the helicopter, saw Mia again, and he actually started dying while Mia was like watching him type thing. And he gives his final goodbyes as he just turns to just like, he wouldn't turn to like he would turn to like dust essentially, like the same thing as everything else. Or even like he's trying to get to the helicopter and he stops and he says goodbye to Mia and he gets up and walks away. And Mia wants to go with him, but like mold kind of covers him. So like that kind of happens, but I kind of wanted to be like a final moment where Mia and Ethan have their final like kind of like little reunion, and then Ethan goes off into the mold and blows it up. That one I think would have made me break down more because he has to say his final goodbye to his wife and his daughter. Even though he says goodbye Rosemary, that was still sad enough. And then, of course, at the end of the game, we see that she goes to his gravesite and everything like that, which that was still touching on its own. And I can't wait to see what Capcom is going to do with Rose Winters now. Because obviously she's a bioweapon. They've already confirmed that she is like a bioweapon. Because she even says, I'll show you stuff Chris doesn't even know I can do. So she's technically working with Umbrella as a bioweapon deterrent, if you would. So I'm kind of interested if she's going to become like a main protagonist in a future Resident Evil game, which I wouldn't be surprised. They could totally do that. And it would probably be sick as hell to have like abilities as Rosemary as a primary character. That would be kind of cool to see. But all in all, Resident Evil 8 was actually a pretty decent game. Like, compared to, like, the remakes of 3 and 2, I mean, they're remakes. So, I mean, they're not horrible. The remakes of 2 and 3 are not horrible. I will give it that. Both of those were really good. I liked how they revamped the series like that and stuff like that. I love Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8 at this point. Ethan Winters' story is a completely separate story from what we're used to. It's not zombies and viruses. It's mold and fungus. And it's also taking the place of a different character's storyline and perspective. Because Ethan was in the dark about the whole thing. He didn't know what was happening and what was going on. So that was kind of interesting to see him kind of transition from just being this kind of like regular guy to like this somehow expert at knowing a little bit about Umbrella but not a whole lot. And like I said in the video prior, I said poor Ethan, rip in chat for Ethan, because that's the one thing I kind of foreshadowed. I said rip in the chat, F to pay respects, boys, poor Ethan. I kind of foreshadowed that a little bit, even though I didn't know. I want to make something very clear. I did not know anything about the game. I did not see anything prior to the game's release. I more or less said that as a joke because I felt bad for Ethan as a character, that he's going through so much shit and he just can't live his life normally. that alone kind of foreshadowed it in my eyes, and I was kind of surprised at the end of the game when I was like, wow, I kind of called that out somehow, even though I didn't know Ethan was going to die, mind you. So that was kind of shocking to see. But now, obviously, I'm praying to God there is a DLC that goes into a little bit more story arc with Village. Because Village, I don't know if I said this, Resident Evil 8 reminded me a lot of Resident Evil 4 with the Village type style, driving around in a boat a couple of times. That literally reminded me of 4. I don't know if I said that in the series at all, but it literally just reminded me of 4 so much. Like the overall design of everything, the way it all felt, it literally just felt like I was playing Resident Evil 4 Remastered. But it was still very, very cool to see, and very, very fun to play. And like I said, I hope there's a DLC. I have plans to do like the mercenary game mode. Like I think I've already played it a little bit on my own just to see. It's more or less like a gun game thing where you just go around killing enemies. So I don't know if I'll make a video of it. It's probably not a lot to really go on about. So I'll try it. I'll try to make a video of it, but if I don't like it, I probably won't post it. But any case, guys, there's still one more Resident Evil game kind of coming out soon. It's not out yet, but it's called Resident Evil Reverse, which I'll try to play a couple episodes of that because it looks interesting because it's taking different characters from the Resident Evil universe and putting them into one game and like a battle royale style. So I'm kind of curious to see if they're going to add characters from Resident Evil 8, which they really should. Because they showed in the screenshots, they have Nemesis, they have the Tyrant, they have Jack Baker, they have Jill, Chris, Leon, Ada, Claire. Like, they have everybody pretty much. But they should at least have maybe like Mia in there. They should try to add Ethan in there. They should have maybe, they could do Marguerite Baker in there at somewhere. They could probably do that. I have no doubt that they're going to add Lady Dimitrescu into that game. People are going to be demanding, put Lady Dimitrescu into Resident Evil Reverse. People will be demanding that shit. I guarantee it. I'm not even making that up. People probably already have demanded it. So it wouldn't surprise me if you got a bunch of people like, Capcom, put Lady Dimitrescu in the game. I guarantee you that'll happen. But if they do Dimitrescu, they would have to do Heisenberg and maybe the Dollmaker, or maybe Morose. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Who really knows? We don't know yet until the game comes out. Maybe they'll release DLCs or whatever. But as it stands right now, that is the complete story, broken up into little pieces, of Resident Evil 8. I didn't go into full detail because a lot of people probably still haven't played the game yet, so I'll leave exploring a little bit more lore to kind of come out and stuff like that. I'm only telling you the basic essentials of just my thoughts on 8, on how I enjoyed it, and a lot of things that hopefully will be answered in DLCs or in future games that I hope to see. And maybe, who knows, maybe my theory on the first aid med is actually correct. It's like an accelerator. It's not a first aid chem, it's an accelerator for the mold to actually grow quicker. So Ethan can just put his arms back on like it's nothing. But as it stands now, Ethan Winter's story is done. The father's story is done. Which is sad to say, because I was hoping we were going to get like a Leon Kennedy and Ethan Winters crossover at some point. We didn't really get that. And we probably won't, which sucks. But in any case, guys, for all those who watched the series, thank you guys for watching this series. Thank you guys for watching this video. Go check out the series. I made a playlist of it, so if you guys want to watch the whole thing, the marathon of it, go ahead. Obviously, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. There's going to be more regular content on a daily basis somewhat now. I'll try to post here and there a little bit, and obviously as the time goes on, I post more. I'm going to get back into a little bit more of the reviews now, because, you know, I kind of start off with reviews. I do a little bit of gaming. I do a little bit of reviews, back and forth. So I'm going to do a little bit more reviews. We just got done with the Dr. Collector stuff. I still got one more box I have to show you guys. Actually, 2. I think there's actually 2 I have to show you guys still. But that's going to be in a future video. It's going to be coming out real soon, so keep an eye out for those Dr. Collector videos that are going to come out. But thank you guys for watching the series. Thank you guys for watching this video. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one. Adios.